Gary Peart, welcome to Profile.
Thank you very much.
We're delighted to have you because of this resume, and I want to talk a little bit about it. I have to lay it out for people. So, a leader in the financial industry, CEO of Mayberry Investments since 2005, driving sector growth, top CEO, named Jamaica's top CEO in 2015 for outstanding leadership, executive chairman of Supreme Ventures Limited, board directors on several boards, including Lasco Distributors, a financial expert with over 2 decades of experience in corporate finance in Jamaica. And you hear it here, but you've heard it when people introduce you at functions. When you hear a resume, what do you think about it? What do you think?
Who's that? Yeah, no, I mean, it's you. It's what you're about. I don't think anything out of the ordinary. That's what you live and breathe and eat.
Do you relish the work?
Yeah, I enjoy what I do, which makes it a lot easier. So you get up every day, you live it. You can't do a job like this if you're not into it, because it's constant, it's at you, and for you to do it, you can't have 2 hours or 3 hours in a day where you're not going to speak to somebody, because the job fundamentally is about relationships, and relationships are 24 hours. So everywhere you go, if you think you're on vacation, you're still working, So for me, I work 24 hours and I have vacation 24 hours, So any spot or place that I get, so if I travel for work, I try and build in some recreation or fun time. And vice versa, when I'm at work, you try and build in some recreation and fun time. So it just flows. There are no more defined, this is a space for this is a space for that. You find a way to work everything in.
Many people might think you're Kingston born and bred, but not from Kingston at all, from Manchester.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about growing up and how that influenced the path that you're on now.
Well, I mean, the path I'm on now, only existed because my dad died before I got to university. If my father was alive, I would have been an orthodontist, So he's a very influential guy, and also, when he says, you're moving in this direction, he's not somebody I argue too much with. And it made sense. Okay, he asked me what I wanted to do at the time. But then when he died, a lot of things changed in my life. And, I ended up seeing a lot of different stuff. And I think up to the point that he died, I was on the straight and narrow, And, when he died, there's a certain amount of freedom, but there are some people where you get freedom, you fly all over the place. And, put it this way, I never ever failed an exam before my dad died. I couldn't come home and tell him that I failed, right?
Yes.
So then when you start to look at different things and, all the things that's pushing you left, right, and center, you don't spend as much time.
So stern when you're growing up?
No, he certainly is not stern, but you just understand that when he speaks, this is what's going to happen, right? So, I mean, yeah, that's a strong woman in terms of my mother, and so she, actually, I would say would be more stern than he was. But, he had a way to get people to, follow exactly what he said. So, between the two of them, they're really good for each other. And, so you learned different things. As I said before, I don't know anybody else in this world who can keep expenses at the lowest level possible, So when you're brushing your teeth, when you put in the toothpaste on the toothbrush, the pipe must be off. You only turn it on to when you're going to wash out your mouth,
that kind of factor are both parents?
No, my mother. My father was different. My father, everybody loves my father. I still meet people. My dad died in 1989.
Yes.
And I'm still meeting people today who tell me about my dad, and I've only met him once. He's just one of those people that you could never forget. Never been able to get that ability, but as I said, he had a way of just being very endearing, and people gravitated towards him.
But your mother was a financial whiz from the perspective of saving,
So I wouldn't say my mother, as I said, my mother is self-actualized. My mother started it was called CIBC then as a secretary, and she's now a director at the bank. So she went through her career. Retired, and she now sits on the bank. So she has done very well. So, my mother, if you look on a profit and loss, you have income, you have expenditure.
Yes.
And if you want to maximize profit, you reduce expense and increase income. My mother can reduce expense to almost zero. So that's her ability, you know. And so she's a saver. She makes sure everything is right. No, my dad, will find all different ways to maximize income because he's a relationship person, etc. So that's the blend. If you notice, how I gave the example of P&L, right? Can you imagine? Describe your mother and father. Profit, income, the revenue, return on investment, you know.
So these were the people who raised you. So how did Campion College get in the mix? Because you're in Manchester.
No, so I was born in Manchester. I lived in Maypen. And came to Kingston, I think, in about 1980, 1981. And went to prep school Stella Maris, passed from Stella Maris. Everybody's like, you know, when you came and you need to choose schools, you're like, what do? You know, like you go to your parents, they're like, why? So you go back and like, everybody was saying Campion, and you're like, all right, Campion 1, Campion 2. You got into Campion, and you just went through. And you know, one of the things is that you just follow the system. And the beautiful thing about Campion, which I'm forever grateful for, is that I find, you know, the greatest pressure on kids is peer pressure.
Yes.
You know, so at Campion, there was just this hidden hand that you can do anything you want to do, you know, but make sure you go home and go study, and you can pass. You pass. You're gonna do well, you know. So if somebody is to say you want bun school, no, you go do your work. So even if you play sports, you know you had to go away and read your book and understand what's going on. And, you know, it was that kind of work ethic at a point in time, you know. So at the time when I was there, you know, there's a saying that after you get 60 results, you know, they ask you how many you get, you'd be like, you know, 2 or 5 or 8, right? In other schools, when they say 2, 5 or 8, it means subjects. At Campion, it means ones. Oh. You know, so it's just accepted that you'll pass all of the subjects. So, you know, it was intimidating to, some other people in other places, even to this day. But that was just the standard. Your pass mark is 70, some other schools is 40, and you just accept that that's your standard. And
this would pave the way to go to university. But the story takes a twist, but we're going to tell you about it after the break. Right. So our first break on Profile, my guest is CEO of Mayberry Investments and Executive Chairman of Supreme Ventures Limited, Gary Peart. We're back with you after these messages.